Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I want to take you through how to cut and sew this nude corporate dress that you can see on the screen here. So this is the pattern I'm going to be using for it. Please ignore the green lines on the pattern. This is from the previous dress that I made, and the tutorial for that is also available on my channel. So the material I'm going to be using for the purpose of this dress is a basic dress pattern. I have two different basic dress pattern. I'm using the simplest version. There's a more advanced version, but that won't be applied here. And then I'm using a stretchy crepe fabric. So because the material is stretchy, I'm not going to be adding seam allowance, so that by the time that I am done sewing, the dress is going to fit well on my body. The first thing I'm going to do is shorten the dress length, because I want it to stop just a little bit above my knee. This dress length here is like almost a midi length dress, and that's not what I want for this style. So I'm going to just fold the pattern into two and then cut off the excess from the length. Then I'm also going to remove a bit from the shoulder measurement. That's because in the last dress I made, I noticed that the shoulder expanded a bit more because of how stretchy the material is. So I'm reducing my shoulder by 1 inch on both sides. That means I'm taking off 2 inches in total from my shoulder measurement. So I'm just cutting this off. After that, I'll go ahead and trim off the 1/2 inch seam allowance that I added to the pattern, because like I said earlier, I will not be adding seam allowance to this dress because of how stretchy the material is. I won't even be putting a dart in the front. I did not put a dart on the back of the dress in this video, but I ended up adding a dart because it was folding up a bit at the back and I wanted to get rid of that. So you can go ahead and add the back dart, but note that I did not show that in this video. So I'm just taking off the dart allowance I added to the waist so that I can cut it off. After that, this is what my pattern is looking like. Now I have my exact body measurement. So just in case you're wondering why the pattern is like this, my waist is 28 and my hip is 42. So this is the pattern here. What I would love to do next is show you guys how to cut out that front design on the picture. But before doing that, I want to first of all cut out the back of the dress, because I'm using the same pattern for the back and the front. Once I have slashed through the pattern, it will be difficult to cut out the back. So I'm just going to fold the pattern into two and then place it on my crepe fabric. I'm using the nude, that's a brown nude, all through for the back. The mix of the milk colored and the skin tone crepe will be for the front only. So remember that when cutting the back of a dress, you want it to have a slit down the middle, that's a slash down the middle, so you can attach a zip. If you're not going to be attaching a zip, then you can just cut it as one piece. But you do have to be mindful, because of how fitted I want this dress to be, and considering the fact that it's a small neckline, I have to add a zip. So I am adding 1 inch to the center back of this pattern before cutting. After doing that, I'll go ahead and slash through the middle to create space for a zip so that I can put on the dress and it will fit well, and then a slit so that I can walk freely in the dress since it's going to be very fitted. So now that I am done cutting that out, the next thing I want to do is cut out the neckline for the back. For the back of the dress, I'm using a 4 inch by 2 inch neckline, just a simple neckline, nothing too extra. So I'll go ahead and connect this using my free hand. You can use a ruler for this if you are not really sure of the outcome, but I just traced this out. After that, I went ahead to cut out the neckline and also make that slash through the middle of the dress. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and modify the pattern to suit the front design of this dress. I want the nude material to come from the middle of the shoulder and then stop right at the bust point area with a little bit of scallopy or wavy design rather than just a straight line. So the first thing I'm going to do is to find the midpoints of the shoulder and also extend the bust point line all the way to the other side so that I can draw out the design. To connect the 2 points, I will first use my trouser curve just to give it a slight curve. So after doing that, to make that wavy design, I'm going to make sure that I mark equal points throughout the line, and I'm going to be using 4 inches. It is 4 inches that was used in this video, but looking back, I would have used like 2.5 or 3 inches just so that the wave can be more obvious, because it was not as obvious as I wanted it to be. But in this tutorial, it is 4 inches that was used, so I'm just marking 4 inches from where the line started all the way to the end. After marking that, what you want to do is also find the midpoint of the 4 inches mark. So in my case, the midpoint is going to be 2 inches. 4 divided by 2 is going to give me 2. So the purpose of finding the midpoint is to be able to come up and then come down by ½ inch from that 2 inch mark. So I started by going down and then coming up and down and then up again. Can you see that? So I'm using ½ inch, and that's going to serve as a guide for making the wave to make sure that it is equal on both sides. But looking back again, I would have used 1 inch so it would be more obvious, but it still turned out really nice. So you can see what I'm doing here. With this, the wave is going to be consistent, it's going to be equal. I'm really sorry that the marker is not showing as well as I would love it to, but I know for sure that you guys can still see. But in future videos, I'll make sure that the lines are showing better. Sorry about that. The next thing I'll do is to draw out the neckline. So remember that this pattern has been used to cut out the back, so the wideness is already 4 inches. All I need to do now is come down a bit more. I want this to be 4 by 4 for the front, so I'm going to come down by an extra 2 inches. Remember, I used 4 by 2 for the back. So for the front, I am using 4 by 4. I already cut off 2 inches for the depth. Now I'm taking off an extra 2 inch, and I'm just going to connect it and then cut it out. So this is what this pattern is looking like so far, and you can see that from the pattern alone, the dress already looks really nice. I decided to just adjust the curve here a bit more before proceeding to cutting this out. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and transfer this to my fabric. So I'm going to be adding seam allowance here and here for joining the two pieces back together. So this is what the dress is looking like so far, and you can see how beautiful this color combination is. I can't wait to put this on. So the next thing I want to do is cut out the facing for the neckline. If you watched the previous video, then you should understand what a facing is. It's basically just a fabric that you cut out exactly like the neckline that you have for your dress, so that you can stitch them together facing right sides and then flip over the tiny piece that you replicated to give your neckline a finished look without any stitch showing. So I've gone ahead to cut out the facing for the front neckline. It's a rough piece of fabric that I used for this. I'm just going ahead to make adjustments to it because I want it to be just 2 inches wide all round. You can use your tape rule and chalk to mark this out, but I just freestyled it here. So this is the facing here for the front already cut out. To stitch it, I'll just place it right on the front side of the fabric and then stitch down using ½ inch seam allowance, and that will give my neckline a very neat and professional finish. I'll go ahead and repeat the same thing for the back of the dress. Now it's time to sew all of the pieces together, starting with the facing for the front. So I've gone ahead to pin this together, facing right sides together. I'm just going to stitch it down using the ½ inch seam allowance. So after stitching it, you want to make sure that you notch the neckline. If you do not notch the neckline, it will not relax. And also make sure that you iron it instead. So this is how you notch the neckline. You just make tiny little splits all through the neckline to make it relax. If you're making v-neck, you make sure that you split through that sharp point. So that's just it, and I'm repeating the same thing for the back of the dress. The next thing I'm going to do is to join these two pieces together. You can see it fits perfectly like a puzzle. So I'm just going to pin it together, starting from this slightly sharp wavy point just to make sure that nothing is out of place. You can also go ahead and notch this. I forgot to do that, so I just made sure that I pinned all of the right spots together, because if it does not fit well like a puzzle the way I just did it, and you stitch it that way, it's going to look really rough. It's not going to turn out nice. The design might not even show properly. So make sure that you pin all of the points to match and then stitch it down. So this is what it is looking like after joining. You can see how beautiful this looks already. The next thing to do is to join the front and the back piece together. This is quite simple. You just face right sides together, making sure that the hip point, the waistline, and the hem matches. If you cut out your fabric properly, this shouldn't be a problem. And then you just pin the shoulder area as well and stitch it down. We're not working with lining here, so the sewing technique is not going to be complicated. What you just need to do is to make sure that you hem or interlock all of the rough edges. Also make sure that you iron all of the pieces before joining. I know mine is not ironed. There was no light and I'm there to get this done, so I just continue like that. Do as I say, not as I do sometimes. So just make sure you iron everything to make it easier for you. So I've pinned everything down. I'm going to go ahead and stitch it using 1 inch sewing allowance. Remember, I did not add sewing allowance, but I'm still going to take off 1 inch all round just to make sure that the dress is really fitted on my body. I've gone ahead to join the sides of camera. For the back, I'm going to leave zip allowance. So I usually suggest letting it stop 2 inches before your hip point, or right at your hip point at most. That is where your zip should stop, and then just stitch down and leave a 5 to 7 inch slit. So I'm starting from after the zip allowance point to stitch down the 1 inch, and I'm taking this all the way down. I left 5 inches as my slit for the back. This is what the dress is looking like so far. The next thing to do now is to fix the sleeve. I've gone ahead to fix the invisible zip off camera. I have a separate tutorial on how to fix an invisible zip, so that should help. The dress doesn't look really nice right now because it has not been ironed at all. Please don't sew like this for a client. I'm really just doing all of this because I'm doing it for myself. If not, I would do the due process and probably wait for lights to come. So anyway, I have my basic sleeve pattern here. I also have a tutorial for that on my channel. I'll link them all in the description, or you find it at the end of this video or in the cards up here. Okay, so for the sleeve, I want this to be a bell sleeve, and the flare will start from the elbow point. So I just came down from the elbow point by 1.5 inch and then marked a straight line from there. After that, I just go ahead and cut it out while leaving half of an inch as joining allowance. That is to join the straight sleeve to the flare that I'll be cutting later. So for this, I'm going to be using the nude fabric, that's the brown fabric, sorry, for one of the sleeve, and then the cream colored fabric for the other side. After cutting out the straight sleeve, the next thing to do is to cut out the flare. So I've cut out the one for the brown piece of fabric. Let me just take you guys through how to cut the other one. So first, you want to measure the length of where you want to attach the flare to, and then you're just going to grab your fabric. So that measurement you got, you want to divide it by 4. Why? Because I'm cutting a 360-degree flare, and to cut a 360-degree flare, you first cut your fabric into 4 before you take your measurements. So it is from this point where there is no open edge that you're going to take the roundness. So the measurement I got is 11.75. 11.75 divided by 4 is what I want to mark here. So the easiest way to do this is to just place your tape rule in a curved manner and then mark the 2 points or trace it out. You can also find the radius. Since it's a 360-degree flare, all you need to do is to divide that by 6.28 and then you will get it. So I'm going ahead to use a chalk to mark it out, and here I'm just cross-checking that what I have is correct. So now the next thing to do is to measure out the length of the flare that I want. You want to make sure that this is starting from the initial line that you drew to make sure that it gets a circle flare. So everything has to be equal. Don't forget to add your 1/2 inch joining allowance and also allowance for hemming the rough edge of the sleeve. So this is what I have. You can see it is a perfect circle. You just want to cut a straight line through the middle so that it will be easy to attach to the sleeve. Can you see how perfect this is? I'm just going to attach it to the sleeve this way and then go ahead and join it and attach it to my dress, and with that the dress is ready. So to finish off the rough edge, you can either double fold or use a bias. You can also use an interlocking machine for it. So that's completely up to you. I won't be giving you guys a specific thing to do for that. So this is the dress here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, do leave them in the comment section and I'll make sure to respond. Thank you for watching. See you next week, Friday. Bye.